What if you were to meditate on the understanding that you determine yourself? What does it even mean that you determine yourself? A lot of people, based on an unhealthy childhood and upbringing, have allowed other people and other things outside of them to determine them. An example of this, well, I talk about this in a lot of different ways in other videos. When your self-worth is tied externally, you are allowing someone or something outside of you to determine you. For example, if it was me, I would say, or I would think, or I would feel, I, Chris, am only worthy because of that person. That person is in my life. That person loves me. That person likes me. That person thinks this or that about me. I am only worthy because I have that car that is so popularized by society, or that house, or that thing, whatever it is, it's something out there. And for that reason, I am determined as XYZ. There's a specific meaning that I have attached to that thing that reflects back off of that and comes back to me. And because of that, this is who I am. I am this, I am that. I am worthy. Oh, but then the second that I lose that thing, I am all of a sudden unworthy. If I were to determine myself, if somebody were to determine themselves, they would not be reliant on the external. And this is actually to a much larger degree than most people realize. Because then the person would say, oh, well, it's important to have a balance. It's important to have something that you're tied to out there. Why? Why? All of this is entirely dependent on how well you know yourself, how much autonomy you've allowed yourself to achieve, how much healthy boundaries, individuation, and differentiation you have allowed yourself to develop within. People that are raised in unhealthy ways with a lack of healthy boundaries, a lack of individuation and differentiation, they don't determine themselves. They are very much tied to the external. And with that, they have given their power to the external. And it's not good or bad or right or wrong. It's just externalized. And with that, need to make this very clear, unstable. Because when your sense of self-worth is externalized, it is tied to something out there. And when it's tied to something out there, it's tied to something that you cannot control. Because you can't control the external. You can control yourself. That's the difference. Entirely, by the way. You can control yourself entirely. Now, I understand that, people would be like, oh, well, maybe you get sick. Yeah, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the power that you have over your emotions and the power that you have to not let anything else have power over you. When you determine yourself, you determine your fucking self, period. There's nothing out there, nothing outside of you that determines you. And yes, contrary to probably what most people would think about this is actually healthy. I'm not talking about power to control other people. I'm talking about power to determine yourself, regardless of whatever is happening around you, outside of you. And then talk about inside of you. What is happening inside of you? You determine that. What are you investing any of your emotional energy into, and why? You determine that. What is making you happy and why? You determine that. What is pissing you off and why? You determine that. Meditating on the understanding that you determine yourself. First, you have to understand that you even can. And what that would entail in and of itself is to recognize that either you are intrinsically determined, which is what we're going for here, where you determine yourself, or you are extrinsically determined. You allow the external to affect you. And yes, you are a human being, but with work and practice, and with much wielding and refinement, you can choose to determine yourself. It doesn't matter what fucking stimuli arises in the environment. Oh shit. Huh. There that is again. Am I going to give it any of my emotional energy at all? Or am I just not even going to entertain it? But Chris, it's still there. Ew. Cool. But Chris, it's like waving ballistically, and it's like trying to get your attention. Cool. And this can be applied to everything. Whatever it is that is trying to knock at your door. Do you want to answer? Forget about whether you or not you think you have to. You don't. You have free human agency. No matter how many people have tried to get you to believe that you don't, no matter how much or even if that understanding has been fucked out of you, because a lot of people were raised in ways that have them believing that they don't have free human agency, and with that they can't choose for themselves and they have to rely on other people. Interesting how what I'm saying is going in the direction of externalized determination, meaning that people allow things and people outside of themselves to determine them. And when I say meditating on the understanding that you determine yourself, I'm not just referring to like sitting there and like, what I'm referring to is like actually diving into the fucking reality. The understanding that you are an individual. You are autonomous. You might not see that for what it is right now based on your current level of conscious awareness, based on how you were raised, and that's okay. You don't have to do anything with this video. This video is just kind of like a, here's the slip. Look at it if you'd like. It has a lot to do with the movie The Matrix, if that helps anybody. But to understand that you determine yourself, to understand that you are the chooser of every single thing in your life, every single moment of your life, that is separate from everything else. You get to choose. That's what this is all about. Forget about what anybody else wants. Forget about what anybody else has told you that you should want. Yeah, no, I'll pass on the unsolicited advice, Nancy. What do you want? You determine yourself. Even if you have been listening to other voices. And in regards to labels, because I know that people, for comfortable and safety and familiar reasons, tie and attach to labels. You can. It's not good or bad or right or wrong. But maybe try swimming outside of the labels. Just explore yourself. Explore this I that you are. And maybe explore different brush strokes rather than everything that you have been using. Maybe go that way instead of that way. It's entirely up to you. And that's the reality of this. That is the reality and the understanding of you determining yourself. It doesn't matter what emotion rises. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what anybody says. It doesn't matter. You determine yourself. You determine your identity. You determine your personality. You determine your worth. Nothing outside of you determines that. You can allow it to. But you can also take your power back and realize that entirely you determine yourself. Meditate on that.